Welcome to the Chronicles of Cigarnia, where we pair the tomes with the tobacco, the libros with the lajero, and the volumes with the very, very nice cigars. Volado! I knew there was something. The volumes with the volado. Or more simply put, we pair cigars and books, two of the best things in the world. Today, in honor of the coming 4th of July holiday, we are going to pair the Alec Bradley American Classic blend with Mark Twain's A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court. Both things have a connection to something that started in Connecticut and then wound up in someplace completely different and unexpected. If you're here for either the cigar or the book, you could technically scroll through, and when you see the picture of the book or the author go up on the screen, I'm talking about the book. Otherwise, if the cigar is in my hand, I'm talking about the cigar. But maybe you should stick around because you never know what little tidbits of information will help you when you finally land that spot on Jeopardy and the categories are great American authors or American companies named after their children. You never know. So here she is, the Alec Bradley American Classic blend. It is a 5x50 ring gauge. And the first thing I notice is this lovely honey blonde color, and that you can see a lot of the veins in the wrapper's leaf. I really actually like this because it reminds me that these get very fancy, but when it comes down to it, this is a very natural product. It's kind of strange when you think about at its basic element, what we're doing is we're smashing together a bunch of leaves and lighting them on fire. Smells like hay. Like a sweet hay. I also want to show you the band. You get all of the colors, the red, white, and blue, but it's not an obvious flag like plastered across the front, and it's offset with some nice silver. It has, in Latin, so you know it's serious, two of our country's aspirations, I guess you'd call it, liberty and equality, and a tribute to some of our beautiful landscape. There's some gorgeous mountains there. There's the flag finally on the side of a barn, and I can only guess that that is a tobacco curing barn. But yeah, I think as far as like American labels go, this is very classy. And now for the moment that I lose sleep over, where I cut this cigar into ribbons in front of everybody on the internet. Yep, we're off to a bad start. Hold on. Oh no. Ah! Not too terrible. There are pieces of it everywhere though. I apologize. Pre-light draw. Very grassy. It's pretty open too. All right, let's start the best moment of my day. So the origins of this blend is kind of interesting. Mr. Alan Rubin, who is the owner of Alec Bradley Cigars, wanted to make a blend that his father would recognize. And so he went back to blends that people were doing in Florida more towards the 1920s to make something a little more classic, which I think is very cool. So despite being called the American Classic, it's mostly Nicaraguan, with a Connecticut shade Honduran wrapper, I believe. Yay, pyrotechnics! So one of the confusing things about cigars when you're getting into it is you learn that just because something is called Connecticut shade doesn't mean it's grown in Connecticut. This in particular was not. It was grown? It was grown in Honduras, but in the style of something that originated in Connecticut. So, first impressions. Yeah, super grassy on the first two draws, but that is immediately settling down into some earthiness. But in a lovely, mild way. Okay, I think we can keep going with this and start talking about Mr. Mark Twain and the Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court. So let's put up that book. If you have suffered through the American school system at any time in the last 100 years, you have undoubtedly encountered this gentleman, Samuel Clemens, otherwise known as Mark Twain. I could go on and on about his importance to American literature, but that would take a whole different episode. He is most well known for two, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, which is considered more of a children's book, and The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, which is the big one. Another American writer and cigar smoker, Ernest Hemingway, called The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn the great American novel. So Twain is widely known as a humorist, and he spent a lot of time actually traveling around the world, kind of like a stand-up comedian, telling jokes and reading his stories, and always smoking his cigars. He was also very into America colonizing Hawaii, and he spent some time in Hawaii writing about it and sending things back to newspapers in California. We'll talk a little bit more about this later. A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court was written in 1889 after Huck Finn. It is a frame story, so it's a story inside a story. And the main gist of the plot is that there's a guy from Connecticut, and one of the employees at the factory where he's a foreman gets mad at him and whacks him over the head with a tool, and he passes out and he wakes up in the middle of King Arthur's England. And he goes about fixing and modernizing it. And I think I could make this short. If you're thinking about reading this for pleasure, don't. Don't do it. Run away. I'm getting into the first third here, and I want to talk about this before it gets away from me. After the first few puffs on this, it has settled down into a very pleasant creaminess. There is an occasional hint of leather and maybe a little bit of coffee, but nothing too intense. It's really quite mellow. I also want to point out that the Rubin family of Alec Bradley have been all over my cigar media lately. For example, this wonderful picture on the cover of Cigar Journal. Here they are, because it is their 25th anniversary, and this is Daddy, Alan, Alec, and Bradley, just in case you do get on Jeopardy, and that's the question. Nice mustache. I feel like Bradley Rubin is doing his best young, off-duty Groucho Marx impression, though he's probably too young to know who Groucho Marx is. Okay, I have to elaborate just a little bit, especially since I respect Twain and his work. So I'm going to start with the things that I did like about this book. The first thing, it's time travel. Mark Twain is writing science fiction in the 1880s, only 4 years after H.G. Wells comes out with his Time Machine book. So I don't think we think of Mark Twain usually as a science fiction writer, but here he is writing time travel. I love that. The second thing about this that I liked is that it is funny in some places. An example for you of Twain's humor is the main character, the boss, is what he's basically known as, wakes up and he's still trying to figure out where he is. And there's all these knights running around, and this very small boy runs up to him. And the boss looks at the little boy and goes, "Well, who are you?" And the little boy goes, "Oh, I'm that knight's page." And the boss goes, "Page? Huh, you look more like a paragraph to me." But and unfortunately, that's all I got. So, one of the things that I did not enjoy about this book was something to do with that humor. At this point, Twain knows he's funny. Some of his jokes go on for pages. Yes, this guy trying to put on armor is funny for the first paragraph, but by page 3, I want to die. What's also awful about this is that there is a character in this book who does this exact same thing, who tells jokes until everybody in the room falls asleep. So see, Twain knew subconsciously, I think, that he was doing this, and it is just tedious. So, second, I am not a fan of presentism, and presentism is when you read something and you assign your present-day modern values to something that is from the past. So, if I were reading this for scholarly purposes, I would hold my nose and realize this, and that some of the things that I'm reading were unfortunate norms of the time. But I am not reading this for scholarly purposes. I was trying to read it for pleasure. And in reading it for pleasure, some of the casual racism in the remarks that are just thrown out there like they're nothing were really hard for me to swallow. And the casual racist comments he makes specifically about the native peoples of America make me just want to reach through the book and grab him, and shake him, and just tell him he's a... So there's that. So yeah, I get it. This is a commentary on the church. This is a commentary on the monarchy, blah, 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 right? But it also seems to be some kind of commentary on colonialism. The boss's attitude toward the people around him is very similar to what you read from colonizers who go in and they talk about, oh, these innocents, they really need me to be in here and to make it all better. And frankly, it's a little bit nauseating. Specifically when you know that Twain had a very similar point of view as far as Hawaii goes. 10 years after he writes this book, Twain has a reverse as far as his theories of American colonialism, specifically when it came to America in the Philippines. So my brain is reaching for explanations like, okay, maybe what we're seeing in this book is Twain transitioning from one train of thought to another. But like I said, in reading this for pleasure and not scholarly purposes, that just muddied it and made it just kind of like, eh. How's that for a review? Eh. Okay, so to sum up this book, I found it to be somewhat offensive. I can't tell what the characters' true motivations and intentions are, but the worst of all, I found it to be tedious. I'm sorry, sir. No. I think we should get back to talking about this cigar. So I'm getting towards the second third, and I want to point this out. Look at this. It's really holding together. You guys see how much I gesture, right? And it has not made any move to fall off. Let's see if it wants to actually go anywhere here. It's pretty firm. Oh, okay, well, there we go. It has kept that creaminess I mentioned in the first third, and it has just expanded, and it has added some honey sweetness to it as well, which is really quite nice. It has remained mellow as far as flavor. There is a sweet, almost wheat bread-like quality to this, in a sense. Yeah, I am actually really enjoying the flavors of this. Now, what's surprising is how strong it is. During the first third, I was thinking, oh, this is actually quite a mellow, flavored, creamy cigar. It might be something I could give to a novice and say, hey, check this out. But I don't think so. When I hit that second third, something, pow, kicked in, and I was like, ooh, I'm getting a little bit of a head change. So it is deceivingly strong. Yay. Yeah, so let's not put that book up, and let's put up a picture of Twain instead. I did want this to be kind of like a, yay, 4th of July episode, but at this point we're 50-50. I don't know. And like I said, I do respect Twain and his writing. What I'd like to do is give you some of his famous quotes. A few fun facts that I thought were interesting that you might not know. So here is the first one for you. Worrying is like paying a debt you don't owe. I could use that one, I think. He was a friend with the inventor Nikola Tesla, and he spent a lot of time in Tesla's laboratory watching him come up with new scientific experiments. You go to heaven for the weather, you go to hell for the company. The work he was the most proud of was a memoir of Joan of Arc, told in her voice. It is distinctly not funny. Never refuse to take a drink under any circumstances. He sounds like a good time, unless you're from Hawaii. Or Native American. He was a big supporter of the women's suffrage movement. What would man be without woman? Scarce, sir. Mighty scarce. He was anti-slavery, did not believe it was a good thing. All of this despite the fact that he spent a little bit of time in the Confederate Army. He was an inventor himself, and he made quite a bit of money on these self-sticking scrapbook pages. Who knew scrapbooking was around back in the 1800s? Evidently it was, and Twain's invention was a page that if you got it a little bit wet, it would get sticky and you wouldn't need to mess with nasty glues and that kind of thing. Mark Twain, the scrapbooker. He tried out some other pen names besides Mark Twain. One was Thomas Jefferson Snodgrass, and the other one I have to read for you because there's no way I'm gonna get it. Epaminondas. Epaminondas adrastis blab. Epaminondas adrastis blab. Epaminondas adrastis blab. I wonder why he didn't end up using that one. Really, Mark Twain? And the last fun fact, he was a redhead. I've only seen him look like this, so that fact actually came as a huge surprise to me. And here is his most famous cigar quote. I smoke in moderation, only one cigar at a time. Ladies and gentlemen, and anyone else who is joining this party, Mr. Mark Twain. So I've made it to the last third of the cigar, and you can see that the cigar ring also makes for a decent cocktail ring. The flavors have continued in the lovely creaminess, but it's moved from the sweet, weedy with a little bit of coffee into more of a creamy wood, which is very nice still. There is an occasional hint of caramel as we're wrapping this up. You could see from the hair, not just the humidity, but the strength of the cigar. The hair gets bigger as the strength of the cigar grows. I do want to talk a little bit about the room notes, and in my household, room notes means how the actual smoke smells. My husband, when he walked up and I was smoking this originally, thought that I was smoking a flavored cigar. That's how sweet the fragrance is that comes off of this. About that fourth third, which in my cigar speak means how the cigar stays with you after you're done, because unfortunately it does, right? This is very true to your grandpa's cigar, and kind of that it stays with you. There will be some hair washing going on, there will be some laundering happening, but overall I think that's not necessarily a bad thing, considering how tasty this cigar was. And get this, depending on where you buy this cigar costs anywhere from $5.50 to $6 or $7 at the top end. That's a very democratic price. So I have no problems buying quite a few of these and distributing them out at any kind of patriotic holiday party that might be coming. So to sum up, I like how it looked. I like the backstory of it and what Alec Bradley was trying to do with this cigar. I like the price, but most importantly, I like how it tasted and I like how it smoked. So yeah, I recommend this cigar. Okay, before I preview what's going to happen next time, I want to say thank you so much to my tasting panel. Thank you for watching it. If you liked it, please hit like. If you want, please subscribe. I'm also on Instagram and TikTok, where I do little short bits also, so you can follow me there. I want to give a special shout out to the Smoking Library. Sir, we like the same two things, books and cigars together. My heart is full of joy. So for next time, I am going to go out of my comfort zone again and try a romance novel for the first time. Get a load of that cover. The Duke Heist. It is a Regency romance. We are going to pair it with an equally regal sounding cigar, the Noblesse from Aroma de Cuba. So we'll see how that shapes up. In the meantime, I hope you're reading some good books. I hope you're reading some cigars. I hope it's strong. In the meantime, I hope you're smoking some good cigars, reading some good books, and ideally doing it both at the same time. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you again. All right, let's try this smoke ring again, shall we? There goes one. I'm beginning the hang of this. Strong. I think I need to go have a lie down now.